Welcome to Hidden Romantic Tales. Please don't forget to subscribe. The voice faded, and the story began. Clara had never imagined her life would turn out this way. She was 36, a woman who once believed in fairy tales and happy endings, but reality had been far from kind. Her marriage to Daniel had started with laughter and promises, but over the years it had grown cold. He worked long hours, came home late, and hardly looked at her anymore. The only warmth she found in the house was from Liam, Daniel's son from his first marriage. Liam was 22, quiet yet observant. He had inherited his father's sharp jawline but carried none of his arrogance. There was something gentle in his eyes, something that always made Clara feel seen. At first, their bond was simple. He would ask her about her day, help with groceries, or sit with her during long, lonely evenings when Daniel was away. But slowly, something unspoken grew between them, an understanding that both of them carried loneliness in their hearts. 1. Rainy evening, the house felt more silent than usual. Daniel had left for another business trip, though Clara suspected it was something else. The storm outside echoed the storm inside her chest. She was in the living room, staring at the rain sliding down the window when she heard footsteps. Liam entered, holding 2 mugs of hot tea. "I thought you might need this," he said softly, placing one in front of her. Clara smiled faintly. "You always seem to know." They sat side by side, the sound of rain wrapping around them. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Liam broke the silence. "Clara, are you happy?" The question startled her. No one had asked her that in years. Her throat tightened. "I don't know anymore," she whispered. "I thought I was. But happiness doesn't feel like this." Liam's hand brushed against hers, on the couch. It was unintentional. Or maybe it wasn't. But she didn't pull away. For the first time in a long while, she felt warmth travel through her skin. That small touch opened a floodgate inside her. She found herself telling him everything, how she felt invisible, how her marriage had turned into silence, how her dreams of love had withered. Liam listened without judgment, his gaze steady, his expression filled with something she couldn't quite name. "You deserve more," he said finally. "Someone who actually sees you." Her heart throbbed painfully at his words. She wanted to say it didn't matter, that she would endure, but she couldn't lie anymore. A tear slipped down her cheek. Liam reached out and brushed it away, his fingers lingering for just a second too long. The air between them shifted. The storm outside raged louder, but inside the room, there was only quiet tension, an invisible pull drawing them closer. Clara's breath caught as she looked at him, really looked at him, and realized how much he had changed. He wasn't the boy who had once been shy around her. He was a man now, strong, tender, and dangerously close. Her heart whispered what her mind refused to accept. She was drawn to him. But just as the thought settled, Liam leaned in slightly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want to cross a line, but Clara, being near you feels different. It feels like home." Her entire world tilted in that moment. The rain crashed harder, her pulse raced, and she knew whatever happened next would change everything forever. She opened her mouth to respond, and the front door suddenly creaked. Clara froze, her breath caught in her chest. Liam's hand, still resting near hers, went rigid. For one terrifying moment, she thought Daniel had returned early. But as the door opened wider, it was only the wind. The storm had forced the old wood to shift on its hinges. The house groaned, then settled again. They both exhaled, laughing nervously at their own fear. But the spell between them had already been broken. Clara pulled her hand back quickly, staring into her tea as if the swirling steam could hide her racing thoughts. Liam studied her in silence, his jaw tight. "I should probably head upstairs," he murmured, though his voice sounded reluctant. Clara nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, of course. Thank you for the tea." When he left the room, she let out a shaky sigh. What had she almost allowed to happen? The man, was her stepson. She shouldn't feel this way. She pressed a hand against her heart, but the warmth of his touch still lingered there, making her question everything she thought she knew about love and loyalty. That night, she lay awake, listening to the rain. She imagined Liam in the room above her, perhaps also restless, perhaps also haunted by the almost moment they had shared. Sleep never came. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows, turning the storm into a memory. Clara tried to busy herself in the kitchen, preparing breakfast, pretending everything was normal. But when Liam walked in, their eyes met and the silence between them spoke louder than words. "Clara," he said softly, almost carefully. "About last night." She cut him off quickly. "We shouldn't talk about it." "But we need to," he insisted, stepping closer. "I don't regret what I said. Do you?" Her lips parted, but no answer came. She wanted to say yes. She regretted everything. That would have been the safe answer. But the truth trembled inside her. She didn't regret it. Not even a little. Liam's eyes searched hers, waiting, hoping. But Clara turned away, picking up a dish just to keep her hands busy. "Liam, please, this is complicated, too complicated." He stood there for a moment, then quietly replied, "Complicated doesn't mean impossible." Those words followed her the rest of the day. Later in the afternoon, Daniel called. His voice was rushed, distant. "I won't be back for another week," he said flatly, as if it were no big deal. Clara felt her stomach twist. Another week of loneliness, another week of empty dinners and silence, except she wasn't entirely alone this time. That evening she found Liam in the garden, fixing the loose fence panel the storm had shaken. His shirt clung to his skin with sweat, and the sight of him made her chest tighten in ways she hated herself for. She tried to look away, but when he noticed her and smiled, her heart betrayed her again, skipping a beat. "You didn't have to do that," she said, trying to sound casual. "I know," he replied, "but I wanted to." The simple words carried weight she could not ignore. She lingered, watching him, until the air between them grew heavy again. The garden smelled of damp earth. The sky glowed faintly with the last traces of sunlight, and she knew she should walk back inside. But she stayed. "Clara," Liam said suddenly, his tone serious, "I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest." Her pulse quickened. "What is it?" He dropped the tools, wiped his hands, and stepped closer. His voice was steady, but his eyes revealed the storm inside him. "Do you feel it too? This thing between us? Or am I the only one losing sleep over it?" Clara's breath caught. Her heart screamed the truth, but fear clamped down on her lips. Still, she couldn't look away from him. His nearness, his intensity, it was undeniable. The garden fell silent. The only sound was her heartbeat, wild and unsteady. And before she could stop herself, Clara whispered, "Yes." The single word slipped from Clara's lips before she could stop it. Her own voice startled her. She wanted to take it back, to pretend it hadn't been spoken aloud, but it hung there between them, undeniable. Liam's eyes widened, then softened with relief. "I thought I was imagining it," he whispered. Clara shook her head, panic rushing in now that the truth was out. "Liam, we can't. This is wrong. Your father—" "My father doesn't see you," Liam interrupted, his voice low but firm. "He doesn't know how lucky he is, but I see you, Clara. I always have." Her chest tightened painfully. The longing in his eyes mirrored her own, and that terrified her more than anything. She turned quickly toward the house, desperate to escape the moment. But before she could take another step, her phone rang inside. The sound jolted her like thunder. It was Daniel. She hesitated, staring at the glowing screen before answering. His voice came through, sharp and impatient. "Clara." "Where were you? I called twice." Her throat went dry. I was in the garden. Is everything all right?" There was a pause on his end, then a sigh. "Fine, just checking in. Listen, things here are more complicated than I expected. It might be longer before I come home." "Longer?" she asked, softly. "Yes, maybe 2 weeks." His tone carried no regret, no concern for how she might feel about it. And before she could say another word, he added, "Tell Liam I'll call him later," and hung up. Clara stared at the phone, her hand trembling. The ache of abandonment spread through her chest like fire. She placed the phone on the counter and leaned against the wall, struggling to hold herself together. Moments later, Liam appeared in the doorway, watching her silently. "Was it him?" She nodded, unable to speak. "He's staying away longer, isn't he?" Her silence was answer enough. Liam stepped closer, his voice gentle. "Clara, you don't deserve this." Tears burned at the edges of her eyes. She hated how vulnerable she felt, hated that Liam could see her breaking. And yet, when he reached out and touched her shoulder, she didn't move away. His touch was steady, grounding her in a way she desperately needed. "Don't cry," he murmured. That simple kindness undid her. She turned toward him, and suddenly they were too close, his breath warm, his eyes searching hers with intensity. For a heartbeat, the world stopped. But just as the moment tilted dangerously, Clara pulled back, pressing her hand to her chest. "I can't, not like this. I need time." Liam nodded, though disappointment flickered across his face. "I'll wait. Just don't shut me out." The night passed slowly, heavy with unspoken words. Clara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Daniel's indifference echoing in her mind, and Liam's confession burning in her heart. The next morning, she tried to distract herself by running errands. She wandered through the town market, hoping the noise and chatter would drown her thoughts, but as she picked up vegetables from a stall, she overheard 2 women gossiping nearby. "Did you hear? Daniel was seen at the hotel again, with that woman from his office." Clara froze. The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Her hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the bag she was holding. When she returned home, her face was pale, her heart in shreds. She found Liam waiting on the porch, concern written all over him. "Clara, what happened?" She tried to speak, but her voice broke. "It's true, Liam. He's with someone else." The words left her trembling. Liam's jaw tightened, fury flashing in his eyes, but he pulled her into his arms without hesitation. For the first time in years, Clara let herself collapse against someone, sobbing into his chest, and as he held her close, she realized something terrifying. Daniel's betrayal wasn't what shattered her most. It was how safe, how right it felt to be in Liam's arms. Clara knew she should have pulled away, but she didn't. His embrace was steady, protective, everything she had been craving for years. The warmth of him calmed her shaking body, and when she finally lifted her face, their eyes locked. "Clara." Liam's voice was hoarse, filled with both restraint and longing. Her heart pounded painfully. She wanted to tell him to stop, to remind him of the line they could not cross. But instead, she whispered, "Why does it feel so easy with you?" He touched her cheek gently, his thumb brushing away the remnants of her tears. "Because it's real." The air between them grew thick, and for one dangerous moment, Clara leaned closer. But just as her lips hovered near his, the shrill ring of her phone shattered the silence. She stumbled back, her breath ragged, fumbling to answer. It was Daniel again. "Clara," he said quickly, "I'll be home sooner than I thought. A few days, maybe less." Her stomach twisted. "So soon?" "Yes. I need to talk to you about something. Important." His voice was clipped as though carrying an unspoken warning. "Tell Liam I expect him to be here when I arrive." When the call ended, Clara's hands were shaking. Liam stepped closer, worry etched across his face. "What's wrong?" "He's coming back," she said, her voice trembling. And he sounded different, as if he knows something. Liam's jaw clenched. "Do you think he suspects?" Clara swallowed hard. "I don't know, but if he does..." She stopped, unable to finish. That night, the house no longer felt safe. Clara moved through the rooms nervously, afraid of her own reflection, afraid of what Daniel might see in her eyes when he returned. Every glance she shared with Liam carried a dangerous weight, but despite her fear, their connection only deepened. In small ways, in stolen moments. A brush of his hand against hers when he passed her the salt at dinner. A long look across the room when the silence grew heavy. The unspoken promise that whatever was happening between them was no longer something they could ignore. 2 nights before Daniel's return, Clara stood in the kitchen, unable to sleep. She stared at the dark window, the reflection of her own weary face staring back. Then she felt it, Liam's presence behind her. "You should be resting," he said softly. "I can't," she whispered. "I feel like everything is closing in on me." He stepped closer, his voice low, steady. "Then let me be here with you. Just tonight. No pretending we don't feel this." Clara turned, her breath uneven. She wanted to resist, but when she looked at him, his sincerity, his unshakable tenderness, her walls finally crumbled. She let herself fall into his embrace once more, and this time she didn't pull away. The clock ticked quietly in the background, each second heavy with forbidden truth. Their closeness felt like both salvation and danger, a storm they couldn't stop. And in that fragile moment, as Liam whispered her name like it was the only word that mattered, Clara realized there was no turning back. But just then, headlights cut across the living room curtains. A car pulled into the driveway. Clara's heart stopped. Liam's arms were still around her, her cheek pressed against his chest. She shoved herself back as if burned, her pulse racing with terror. "Daniel," she whispered. Liam's eyes darkened, jaw tight. He wasn't supposed to be back yet. Clara's mind spun. She smoothed her hair, wiped her face, tried to calm the storm inside her. The sound of a car door slamming shut rang out in the night, followed by the heavy tread of footsteps. Every second felt like a countdown. "Go upstairs," she hissed. Liam shook his head. "Not like this. I won't leave you alone." The front door creaked open. Daniel stepped inside, rain dripping from his coat, his eyes sharper than she remembered. He scanned the room, his gaze flicking from Clara to Liam. "You're both awake?" His voice was casual, too casual. "Yes," Clara said quickly. "I couldn't sleep. The storm kept me up." Daniel's eyes lingered on her flushed cheeks, then shifted to Liam, whose hands were clenched at his sides. An uneasy silence filled the room. Finally, Daniel dropped his bag and gave a short nod. "We'll talk in the morning." Without another word, he disappeared down the hall. A door clicked shut. Clara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her knees almost gave out and she gripped the back of the couch for balance. Liam stepped closer, his face tense. "He suspects something," he whispered. Clara shook her head quickly. "No, he can't. We didn't. Nothing happened." "Not yet," Liam said quietly, his eyes locking onto hers. The weight of his words crushed her chest. She turned away, whispering, "Please don't make this harder than it already is." The night dragged painfully until morning. Clara hardly slept, her thoughts circling like vultures. When the first light crept into the house, she heard Daniel moving about. Soon he called her name. "Clara, we need to talk." She found him in the dining room, already dressed in a crisp shirt, a serious look etched across his face. He gestured for her to sit. "I've been hearing things," he began. His voice was measured, careful. "About me, about you, about this family." Clara's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Don't play dumb. People talk. And I don't like what I've been hearing. About how close you and Liam have gotten while I've been away." The words cut through her like a blade. She forced herself to remain calm. "Daniel, he's your son. Of course we're close. What else could it mean?" But even as she said it, her voice wavered. Daniel leaned forward, studying her face as if searching for cracks. "You've changed, Clara. I see it. And I'll find out the truth, whether you admit it or not." Before she could answer, Liam entered the room. His expression hardened when he saw Daniel so close to her. The tension between father and son was electric, the air so heavy Clara could barely breathe. Daniel turned to him slowly. "Liam, sit down. We're going to have a family conversation." Clara's blood ran cold. Whatever happened next, she knew their fragile secret was on the edge of exposure. "Liam, sit down. We're going to have a family conversation." The weight of Daniel's words pressed down on the room like a storm ready to break. Clara sat frozen, her hands clenched, in her lap. Liam stood tall, refusing to move closer, his jaw tight with defiance. "There's nothing to talk about," Liam said firmly. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "There's everything to talk about. You've been acting different. Clara has been acting different. Do you think I don't notice?" Clara swallowed hard, her heart hammering. "Daniel, you're imagining things. Please, let's not do this." But Daniel leaned forward, his voice sharp. "I've heard enough whispers. People in town say my wife looks happier when I'm not around. And my son—" He shot Liam a hard stare. "Seems to think he can take my place." The accusation hung in the air like thunder. Clara's breath caught, and Liam's fists clenched at his sides. "Maybe if you treated her like a wife instead of an afterthought," Liam snapped, "she wouldn't have to look for happiness elsewhere." The words struck like lightning. Clara's face went pale. "Liam, stop." Daniel stood abruptly, fury blazing in his eyes. "What did you just say?" Liam stepped forward now, unflinching. "You don't deserve her. You leave for weeks, you lie about business trips, you don't even see the way she's breaking. And you dare question me?" Clara rose quickly, tears flooding her eyes. "Enough. Both of you, please." But the damage was done. The truth pulsed in the room, undeniable. Daniel turned to her slowly, his face a mask of betrayal. "Clara, is it true? Do you feel something for him?" Her lips trembled. She wanted to deny it, to protect them all from the devastation about to unfold. But when she looked at Liam, his eyes filled with fierce devotion, her silence became its own confession. Daniel staggered back, as though struck. "My own son," he whispered bitterly, "and my wife. Daniel, I never meant for this to happen," Clara cried. "I tried to fight it, I swear I did. But your absence, your distance, it left me so alone. And Liam, he was there when you weren't." The room fell into silence, broken only by Daniel's ragged breathing. For a long, terrifying moment, no one moved. Finally, Daniel straightened, his expression cold. "You've both made your choice," he said quietly. "But know this, you've shattered this family. There's no going back." He grabbed his coat and stormed out, the front door slamming shut behind him. The echo rattled through the house like an ending. Clara collapsed into a chair, her whole body trembling. Tears streamed down her face as the weight of what had just happened crushed her. "What have we done?" she whispered. Liam knelt in front of her, taking her hands gently. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with intensity. "We told the truth. It hurts, but it's real. And I'd rather face the storm with you than live in silence without you." Clara looked at him, torn, between devastation and relief. Her world had fallen apart in the span of moments, but in Liam's gaze she saw something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Outside, the storm clouds began to break, faint sunlight pushing through the gray. Inside, the air was heavy with both ending and beginning. Clara knew nothing would ever be the same again. And yet, as Liam whispered her name like a promise, she realized her shattered world might still hold a fragile kind of love.